Welcome back to story time. The last video I said, when people show you who they are, believe them. I want to talk about my experience with people walking into my dreams and seeking to control me from that level. And again, this is when these things happen. I never even heard anyone talk about that type of thing. But I was looking for a place to move that was close to my youngest son's school. And I responded to an ad, and I went to the person's home after, and I took my son with me, after picking him up from school. It was in the neighborhood. And it was it was a single family home. It was a basement apartment. It was very spacious. The guy was, I think he was an Arab guy. He seemed, he seemed decent or whatever. Showed me around the apartment. It had a place for you to walk in from the backyard. And it was very nice and spacious. The only thing that was odd or concerning to me was you could walk up the steps. That door would only lock from on his side. There was no lock on my side, or what would have been my side. And and so I told him, I said, I'll come back, take another look at it. I'll come back. And I came back with my daughter. And I remember for some reason, he showed me the upstairs of the house. I don't remember why. I believe it was the same house, unless it was, or it might have been another house that he had to rent close by. But he showed me that house, and there were pictures of his family. And he told me his wife had recently died, maybe within a year or so. And so the pictures were on the wall. You know how you walk up the steps, going upstairs. I think this was in the second house. And looking at the picture of his wife on the wall, it was odd because it was him, his wife, and their two sons. I saw a family picture of them. I saw a single picture of her, and there was just this deep sadness in her eyes. And I'm like, what? Why would she look like that, even in a picture with her husband and her sons, and in an individual picture? And she didn't look sick in those pictures, but she had died of cancer. And so when my daughter came with me, she said she liked the place. I thought she told me that he reminded her of my dad. And so that made me, you know, have a little comfort level, because I know how she felt about my dad. It made me have a little comfort level, with him. And so I think so when I went back with my daughter, that's when I signed a lease, and I gave him, I think I gave him half of the deposit, and I was to give him the other half, I guess maybe in a few weeks. But when I went home and went to sleep that night, I I had a dream where I was in my house, and I was just like in a t-shirt and underwear. I was in my house on my back porch, and he just walks in there, and he's talking to me like normal, like like it's nothing. I'm having this conversation with him, and then at some point I wake up, and I'm like, hold up. I said, something is wrong. Like, why would I be having a dream like this where I'm not even fully dressed, but this man is walking in my house and so comfortable talking to me, and I'm not even properly dressed. And I instinctively, I just knew that he did that on purpose. And right then and there, I was like, oh no, I can't move in there. And I told you, I said there was no way for me to lock the door from the inside going into that basement apartment. And so I knew I wasn't going to do it. And so I called him and I told him, I said, you know, I'm not, and besides that, the money that I thought I was going to get from my job to be able to pay the rest of the deposit and the first month's rent, it wasn't going to be available anyway. So I was already being blocked from being there. And so I called to tell him. And you know what he told me? He said, he said, you know, you signed a lease, and I'm a really nice guy. I'm a really nice guy. So you signed that lease and I could sue you for it because you owe me 12 months of rent. So I'm not going to do that because I'm a nice guy. He kept saying, I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. Just like how my ex-husband said, you know, I have a bad side. He said, I'm a nice guy. So yeah, no, I'm not going to give you back the deposit. And just be glad that I don't sue you for 12 months of rent. That was my first experience with somebody being aware that somebody walked into my dreams, like they invaded my space. And I just instinctively, I just instinctively knew that. The second time I had that experience, I remember, I think a friend and I held a workshop at a community center, and there was a lady that had signed up and she came and she described herself as a prophetess. So towards the end, now when we're giving feedback, we're in a circle and everybody, the women are giving feedback. She just starts to like prophesy to people. So people are like, oh wow, like how do you know that? And wow, and then you know, she says that she's a prophetess. And I'm just observing her, right? I'm observing her, and she looks at me and she said, now she knew who I was because I spoke in the workshop. And she told me I'm going to come to her church because I said you know I don't go to church. She said, no, you're gonna come to my church and you'll be there by like Christmas time or something like that. And so I just looked, I was like, oh, okay. But she was telling everybody else all kinds of things about their life. And I don't know if she said I'm gifted or whatever it was. She was like, I'm coming to her church, right? And so I told Reverend Israel, who was my mentor at the time, I told him, I said, you know, I met this lady and she told me I'll be coming to her church and this. And he got quiet. And then he said, listen, I don't want to tell you what to do and I don't want to discourage you. But there are a lot of women that say that they're prophetesses and they have these women following behind them and just doing everything they say, and then they break them. These women are broken. So he's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, and but I will just give you that. And I didn't. So I was like, oh, okay. I trusted him, so I wasn't even considering going back there. Close to Christmas time now, months later, close to Christmas time, I have a dream. I actually forgot about that woman. I have a dream, and I'm sitting like in the second pew of the church, and there's like I'm surrounded by, I don't know who it was. I thought it was family or something. I thought I knew who it was, but when I woke up, I couldn't really say who it was. It was just familiar to me until I woke up and couldn't identify them. But I'm in a church and there's somebody preaching, and then all of a sudden it's like they're sitting right on the handle of the chair that I'm sitting in, and they have the microphone in their hand, and they're talking, but they're sitting right on my chair. Listen, I remember, and I think that day I was really tired. I remember so clearly in the deepest part of my dream, so exhausted. I bent down and I was like, no, no, this one loud no, so loud that it woke me up out of my sleep. And it shocked me how powerful my no was. I said before, I said, you know, we operate here at a certain level and we don't realize who we are. So that woman tried to walk into my dream and I knew it. And those were the words that I used. And it was an instinctive rejection. When she came and sat on my seat, there was a point at which I knew. So being in church was like a familiar environment, right? All these things were like familiar. But something in me recognized her spirit and was like, oh heck no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. So again, I'm sharing these because if you had these experiences and you wondered about things like this, then I want you to know if you felt like, you know, there was a violation, like something didn't make sense, you know, trust what you know because it was. All right, I'll see you in the next video.